All right, man, peace. So NBA superstar LeBron James sat down with Rachel Nichols right before the beginning of the NBA Finals to once again refute the claim that he was involved in the trade that sent Kyrie Irving from the Cleveland Cavaliers to the Boston Celtics. He also touched on numerous other issues that have been associated with him or with the franchise. So, of course, they're going to talk about it. I'm going to chime in.
One of the main characters in this four-part drama at this point is, of course, LeBron James. Yesterday, I sat down with LeBron to prepare for his 9th trip to the NBA Finals, 8 in a row. Take a listen to our...
There's nothing better in sports than a Game 7. Oh, blocked by James!
Block. That was a hell of a high five he gave Terry Rozier. That's all that was.
Here comes James. Count it! Goaltend and one! Cleveland.
I don't know why that guy tried to grab onto LeBron's back. LeBron looked like Superman with Lois Lane on his back.
But wins Game 7. LeBron James and the Cavs do it again.
I know better to ask you to put anything in historical context because you are an in-the-moment person about this stuff, but in the moment, what does it feel like to be in your 8th straight finals, 9th overall?
Yeah, I don't know, I'm a loss for words, but it's a blessing to be able to be a part of the big stage. And this is the biggest stage that you can get in our sport, and that's the finals.
I agree with him. It is a blessing for him to be back in the NBA Finals for his 9th time, 8 times in a row. Certainly a great achievement. But to be frank with you, he has to win. Eventually, he has to start winning. I'm not sure how many awards or how much preeminence he thinks that he's going to accrue just by appearing in the finals. Nobody says that Jerry West appeared in 9 finals. Nobody cares. They talk about how many he won. But suddenly, people want to change the paradigm for greatness in order to boost Mr. LeBron James. I wonder why that is.
It's the Super Bowl, it's the Stanley Cup, it's the World Series, it's the finals, and I've been a part of it for 8 straight years.
Do you remember that moment with Tim Duncan after your first finals in 2007 in the hallway?
These guys, this is going to be your league in a little while, but I appreciate you giving us this year.
I would never.
Tim Duncan, arguably the most underrated player in NBA history. Arguably. Him, Isaiah Thomas, Moses Malone, you definitely can give that award to probably one of those 3 players in regards to being the most underrated players in NBA history.
I will never forget that moment. At that point in time, obviously, I didn't want to hear that. You know, they had just swept us on our home floor, but, you know, the better team won, obviously. And I was young, but you know, just to be able to go through experiences like I've always talked about, you know, the best teacher in life is experience. So I've been able to experience.
I agree.
Able to experience so much to always to get me to this point.
Plus, I mean, that vest you were wearing, we might have to...
Yeah. Back fashion was definitely not a huge thing in my...
That vest wasn't that bad. As a matter of fact, his fashion back then was a little bit better than it is now.
In my repertoire back then.
LeBron James taking over. Back to James for the layup. Oh, the Cavaliers take Game 7.
You did have to play 2 Game 7s to get here, including one on the road. So the odds weren't with you that you would necessarily be here.
I think the opposite. I think that the odds were with him that he would get back to the finals. I don't think that the chips could have been stacked any better for him. In the first round, he faced an Indiana Pacers team that completely lacked playoff experience as a unit, being led by a Victor Oladipo who had never led a team before. In the second round, he faced a Toronto Raptors team that he has a complete psychological advantage and hold over. And in the third round, he faced a Boston Celtics team without their 2 best players. Now, of course, many people will say, well, you can't say that because Boston has become accustomed to playing without those players. It doesn't matter. You can grow up accustomed to not having a father and a mother. That does not mean that you're not at a disadvantageous position.
Did you let yourself think at any point, I'm not going to make it?
Well, the odds have not been with us all season. You know, even if you start back to the summertime when I felt like it was just bad for our franchise to be able just to trade away our superstar, you know, point guard.
Now, did you really feel like it was a bad thing to trade away your quote-unquote superstar point guard, LeBron James? Or did you really feel like it was bad to trade him away for Isaiah Thomas and Jay Crowder? Because I'm pretty sure that if you could have gotten back Paul George and Eric Bledsoe, as the original trade offer was reported to have been, that you would have had no problem with them releasing Kyrie Irving. So once again, LeBron is playing with words, but I understand why he's doing it.
Obviously, I wasn't part of the communications and know what exactly went on between the two sides, but I just felt like it was bad timing for our team to just get rid of our point guard, you know.
Well, you know what, brother? The communication that you should have been a part of was when Kyrie was actually there. And you should have spoken to him like a man as opposed to one of your sons. And unfortunately for LeBron, he thinks that he can carry on with everyone in the same way because he's a king. Sometimes kings have to have the overall wisdom and discretion to understand that certain members of their court are deserving of higher esteem than others.
You know, and Kyrie Irving, so, you know, I felt like the odds was against us, you know, from the summer. We just had so many things going with our team. We shuffled in different lineups. We shuffled in different players. We made a trade at the deadline. And I can't sit here right now and say that that the finals was a part of my thinking. It was not. And even when you saw me at one point early in the season, I think it was in December or January, and you just looked at me like, okay, come on now, I know you, what you doing. And it's crazy because right before...
Yeah, you was like, what you doing? How come you haven't met me in the hotel in about 3 months? I need some of that Cleveland Mandingo.
Because right before you seen me, I had already kind of hit that switch. I was like, okay, I'm not quite sure what we're going to do with this ball club. We're not playing good basketball. But you can't sell yourself short. To sit here, I can't even lie to you. Sit here and say will we be a part of the finals? I would be definitely lying to you if I said, yes, we would be in the finals in January or February.
Well, LeBron James, I stated that you were going to go to the finals. So it was no surprise to me when you finally got there. I didn't think that there was a team in the Eastern Conference that was fully a threat to you. Now, would I have been surprised to see you lose in any round? No, I would not have been surprised to see you lose to any team in any round. But I also was not surprised when you got to the finals because you are by far the best player in that conference. You're the best player in the league. And there are no other truly preeminent players in the Eastern Conference, especially with Kyrie out. So really, you should have gotten back to the finals. And you had enough talent to get there.
Yeah, you didn't think that was the case.
It was that point where it was like, okay, will the Cavs even make the playoffs? You know, and I was, okay, I'm not something for that conversation. Now, that's ridiculous. Now, I got to get to the postseason, and I've always said, if I get to the postseason, no matter if I'm a 1 seed or 8 seed, or in this case, a 4 seed, I believe that we can do something. And look at it, we did something.
Yes, brother, you've certainly done something. You played by far the best offensively that I've ever seen you play for your entire career. There's no doubt about that. So kudos to you.
Now that you are here, you guys are not favored to win this title. In fact, the odds betting against you from Vegas are the worst they have been in 16 years, which means they are giving you even longer odds than your 2017.
He's like Han Solo. Never tell him the odds.
What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, I think how resilient we've been in this postseason. We can lay our hat on that, and we're going to go through some tough times throughout this finals appearance. I know. I just know from being a part of the finals for 8 straight years. I know we're playing this team now for the 4th straight years. How much havoc and how much anxiety they cause. And then just being in the moment, you know, at times.
Whatever happens here in this finals, are you comfortable with what it says about you or your legacy or any of that?
Look, let's be for real. At this point in LeBron James' career, he's pretty much past that conversation in regards to where he's going to land after he retires. As I've already stated, were he to win in this finals against the Golden State Warriors, I would move him up to number 4. On my overall list, I would probably put him above Magic Johnson, definitely above Larry Bird, which would put him on my Mount Rushmore, meaning Jordan, Kareem, Bill Russell, and LeBron. If he were to lose, which I believe he will, he'll probably remain just behind Larry Bird, Many people might not grasp that or understand that, but the fact of the matter is that Larry Bird accomplished just as much as LeBron has in a little less than half the time. He had 3 MVPs and 3 world titles after 7 years in the NBA. LeBron's in his 15th year, and he has 4 MVPs and 3 titles. But Bird won his 3 MVPs consecutively. So it would take LeBron to win another championship for me to put him above Bird. But that's just me.
Why can't I be comfortable? I'm never comfortable. I've gotten better with understanding that conversations are going to be conversations no matter what. You know, and it's so weird in that people kind of categorize like individuality and then team, and then take away one individual and say, okay, well, if you're that good, you should be able to beat that team. You know?
Yes, you should. And that shows that LeBron is paying attention to many of these debates and these sports talk shows because he knows what's on the line. He wants them to tell him that he's as good as Michael Jordan already while accomplishing half as much in regards to team success. Well, brother, at the end of the day, you can't use the excuse that you no longer have Kyrie when you're the one who basically told Kyrie that he should feel blessed to have you as his leader. Kyrie is an alpha male. He's not going to tolerate that. He's going to want to leave. So you have to improve your leadership skills. That's what that amounts to. Are you an all-time great? No doubt about it. Are you probably the most physically gifted player in NBA history? Right there with Shaq and Wilt Chamberlain? No doubt about it. But there are certain accomplishments that you have left on that proverbial chalkboard to cross off before you can mention yourself as the greatest player in NBA history. Now, we're living in the woke, liberal, black era where everybody just talks to hear themselves talk. So you're going to have many Cinco fans who say, oh, no, LeBron's the best, even though he's 3-8 in the finals because look at the 8 teams he lost to, blah, 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 blah. Not understanding that when you start to accept that mode of thinking, now we have to go all the way back in time from the inception of the NBA and recalibrate what greatness is. Because now you're telling me it's no longer about winning, it's actually about just getting there. All right?
You know, and I think a lot of that conversation that bothers me a little bit, but it is what it is.
You mentioned earlier in this interview about not wanting Kyrie Irving to be traded.
Yeah.
You actually made a phone call and said, I don't want this trade to happen.
Yes, you made that phone call because you realized what you were getting back was not going to be commensurate. Had you been getting back Eric Bledsoe and Paul George, you would not have made that call because you were ready for them to greenlight that trade. The only thing was you were not going to allow Dan Gilbert to pin you in a corner and force you to sign an extension. That's truly what the issue's about. But this is why I tell you, brothers, that LeBron James has strategically placed liberal members of the sports media sprinkled all throughout these various networks to dispense a lot of his propaganda so that they can help him assume the position of #1 all-time NBA player.
Ownership decided to make the trade anyway. They decided that part ways with GM David Griffin, which is another thing you said you didn't want to have happen. What is the relationship with you and Dan Gilbert right now?
Before LeBron answers that question, it's very obvious that that was a setup question that he knew Miss Rachel Nichols was going to ask him because he's trying to prep the Cleveland fan base. He's trying to let them know I'm leaving. Pretty much like how someone will do to a significant other that they're about to dump. They're letting them know, look, we just don't really seem to mesh very well. LeBron's putting all that out there on the table. Why are you talking about Kyrie Irving before Game 1 of the NBA Finals? Unless you're letting the people of Cleveland know, it's been great, but it's time for me to go. I have bigger fish to fry. I brought you what I promised to bring you. I'm heading out to LA, I'm going to Houston, I'm going back to Miami, I'm going to Philadelphia, wherever I'm going. I have to make sure that I catch that big fish.
Over right now.
Well, I mean, our relationship has always been a working relationship. For me personally, I've always tried to do, since I come back to this franchise, I try to put this franchise at a level that is always seen in a positive light. When you see the Cavs logo, I want you to think as a very prestiged and, great organization. So, it's not about, me and Dan. We have a great working relationship,
Well, the main reason why you want to make sure that you up the value of the Cavs logo is because down the line you plan on buying them. And I hope that you're successful in that venture, brother.
I think it's worked out for us both in these 4 years so far since I've been back.
How much is ownership going to play a part in your free agency decision?
We're going to see. We'll see.
Interesting. All right, here's how LeBron has fared against the Warriors in the last 3 finals. This is getting into an actual sample size here now. Was there anything, by the way, from that conversation? I saw you at one point. You're like, absolutely, absolutely.
I've never seen a more humble, more transparent, more just a reachable superstar than LeBron. Like, that's what I love the most about him.
It's very obvious that we need to check Steven Jackson's coffee cup Make sure that it has not been spiked with anything. LeBron James humble? No, brother. I think that he was just being forthright. That's all.
How real he is and how he speaks up when it's time to use his voice.
Yes, he speaks up to activate all the low-level, two-dimensional thinking woke Negroes out there in social media world.
He could easily be up there talking about, I can beat anybody. I'm gonna make it to the. He's a humble guy, and we never had a superstar that humble.
No, sir. No, he's crafty. What LeBron James realizes is that he cannot talk himself up when he does not have the troops to win the war, or at least in his mind, he does not have the troops to win the war. Or at least, let me specify, he wants the viewing public to believe that he does not have the troops to win the war, so that when he puts up gaudy stats and he still loses, he could say, well, I didn't have enough help. If by some unforeseen circumstance he's able to defeat the Golden State Warriors, now he can accrue all that glory unto himself, and he could say, look, I am greater than Jordan. That's why you'll notice in many of the pre- and post-game press conferences, he does not hesitate to tell you how great the Golden State Warriors are. Because it's a no-lose situation for him to promote the Golden State Warriors as this unassailable adversary. If he somehow conquers them, then you have to call him the greatest. If he loses, then how could I beat them? I was outmanned. You understand? That's all it's about. It's not about LeBron James being humble.
And handle the things the way he handles. I just got to give him kudos for that. That interview said a lot about him.
Was there anything you liked?
No, I think that your reaction to the interview says a lot about you, brother. There's no disrespect. But sometimes it's hard for people to pick up on what someone is actually saying and why they're saying it.
You like from that?
Yeah, it was great. I thought he was very, very honest, very open. He didn't protect too many answers. He told you exactly how he felt, and you could see the genuineness in his face. So,
yeah, he was very genuine. I didn't want Kyrie traded, and I don't want to be judged off of my performance without Kyrie, because right now we're outmanned and we're outgunned, and I'm just a little engine that could.
I'm excited for the series to start and see what happens.
Now, part of what he was talking about there is, look, he knows they are outmanned against this
There you go. Ding.
Warriors team. It will be on him. How do you think, Stack, he should attack tonight? What would his game plan be if it were you?
Well, we're talking about the best player in the world, so he's definitely unstoppable. But at the end of the day, he has to go out there and just be LeBron. You know, a lot of it talked about his teammates, his supporting cast not doing this, not doing that. And you at the finals with all that being said, you just go out there and play your game, be the best player on the court, control the pace of the game, and continue to make your team better. That's why you're here, is because you led, and you led by example. Continue to do that.
And for me, I think as good as he is, he knows he can't do it alone.
Right.
You saw the stats that he put up against those guys, and they were just mind-boggling. But he knows he somehow has to uplift those guys and give them confidence and say, hey, we can do this. I'll lead you to it, but I'm going to need your help. And he'll give them confidence, and like I said, it'll be a fun series.
I mean,
Let me say this. LeBron is going to have a great series. This series is truly made for him to dominate. He's playing better on the offensive end than he's ever played in his career. And beyond that, there's no Iguodala. And Iguodala makes a huge difference in this series, especially when they have their Hamptons 5 lineup out there. Because when LeBron James sees Kevon Looney, all he sees is someone to be abused. When Iguodala's out there on the floor and he's able to slide his feet like he needs to, it brings a totally different dynamic to their defense.
obviously it has to both work in concert, right? Like, if he is a threat, especially if he's driving and kicking, the other guys have to hit their shots. If they hit their shots, they create more room for him, right?
Exactly.
So, I mean, that's kind of the only way this is going to work.
Exactly, and I think if you see how he starts out most series, he kind of feels his way through.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure how the luxury to fail. It's quite as long going against the Warriors with the fire.
I thought that the Golden State Warriors started to pick up a better understanding of how LeBron was attacking them as Game 1 went along. It's going to be very interesting to see how well he performs in Game 2.
Firepower they have, but if he can do it and kind of pick his spots and still get guys easy shots, and like you said, if they're making shots, it makes everybody's job a lot easier.
Then with LeBron, you got to think he need 4 more wins. If anybody can get 4 wins, it's LeBron. Now he going up against one of the best teams ever, but I'm not counting LeBron out. I will never do that.
Okay. I mean, look, we have seen it before.
I think that this is going to be a very competitive series. I believe that the Cavaliers are going to win at least a game. At least a game. It's going to be a very competitive 5-game series, though. Could go 7. Wouldn't shock me if it goes 7.
We have certainly seen teams that were supposed to win the NBA Finals not win the NBA Finals, so stage is set. You talk about a feel-out game. I don't think LeBron needs a feel-out game against these Warriors in the Finals. He's had
I agree with you. I just don't see Cleveland winning 4 out of the last 6 games. I just don't see it.
Had plenty of it, right?
Yeah, he definitely has. He knows them, they know him, but that's just kind of how he operates. If you look at it,
it totally is.
Yeah.
I think you're totally right. That would be standard for him, but in this case,
he may change
probably
up a little
doesn't need
bit.
it, right?
Yeah, nah. He knows his team very well, so he could have a different strategy, a different script to stick to.
And you could be echoing Ty Lue, because I know that his coach will say to him all the time, "You don't need to have a feel."
Yeah, you know.
You know, in the back of his mind, he's thinking about that 3 KD hit out there in game 4 last year. So you know he's thinking about that.
All competitors do.
He should be thinking about that. KD dribbled down, pulled up right in his damn face. But anyway, we'll see how things go with LeBron. I just believe that it's very important to grasp that players on the level of LeBron James, they utilize a lot of political tactics when they have sit-down interviews. LeBron operates on a very strategic level. There's a reason why he sits down with Rachel Nichols, and he'll very rarely sit down with anyone else, because he knows that she's going to ask him the questions that he wants to be asked so that he can put out a certain message. He wants to make sure that the cult of personality that he's developed for himself are properly fed. But anyway, peace.